Welcome to our Operation Advent first project, this Christmas stocking designed by Arne and Carlos. This is their 2021. You can get this pattern on their website. And I want to give you some tips as you get started on your stocking. The original pattern calls for Rowan Superwash wool. I am using their new Norwegian wool that is just a smidge lighter than the Rowan Superwash wool. And it's working up fine. In fact, I think by the time I block it, I will be able to meet the dimensions that is suggested in the pattern. You do cast on 72 stitches, and I'm using a number 6. The pattern calls for a 7 because of the different yarn. I like to use a 6 for a DK weight, and that is what this yarn is a DK weight. I'm also working it in the round. And you'll see that I've got the 72 stitches and I'm going round and round. That makes the color work a little bit easier to do because you don't have to push and pull with a magic loop and or double points. Double points work great. Magic loop works great as well. But I found that with the 72 stitches, when you first cast on, it's a bit tight. But once you get going, it'll work around the circle rather well. I've also put markers where it's a 10, let me check it, a 12 stitch or maybe more repeat. I'm sorry, it's not marked on the chart. And so I have markers in between. And one of the things I want to show you is how I trap my yarn and how I carry my yarn. But let's talk about trapping the yarn for the stitches. So there are, this is 18 stitches. They're in this particular segment, this particular round of the stranded knitting. It's an 8 stitch of the white and 1 stitch of red, 8 and 1. And when you get to more than 5 stitches, you really kind of want to trap your yarn. And you can see in the back where I've caught it here in several places. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm a continental knitter, and so I do carry both yarns in my left hand. And you want your color dominant yarn, and that would be the color I want to pop. And in this instance, it is the red that I want to pop. I will carry that closest to me. And so I tension my yarn, and then I take my middle finger and I split the 2 yarns and put it up and over my index finger, kind of like a shuttle or some place that I can go and grab these yarns. Now, I've done 2 white stitches, and so I'm going to do a 3rd stitch. You see how I just go over and pick that up. Now, to trap this, it's really works fabulous when you're carrying the 2 yarns in your left hand. You go under the red yarn, bring in your white stitch for stitch number 4, and then you're going to go over and grab the white. And sometimes you have to kind of separate this and fuss it a bit. And that then traps, you can see where the red yarn right here is trapped in the back. And so I've done 5, and we'll do 6, 7, 8, and now we're ready for a red stitch. And so sometimes you'll notice that those yarns get closer together, and so you can retension. The other thing that's very important is that you take and stretch these stitches out so as to elongate those floats that are happening. So let's look at the one more time. Again, I will retension. I wrap it around my pinky finger. I put my middle finger through the 2 yarns to break them apart, so to speak, and then I tension them up on my index finger. And, you know, if you can kind of get started that way where they're spread apart. So now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and on the fourth one, I'm going to go under that red yarn, and then I go over the red yarn for the 5th stitch, and I have trapped him. You can see it's right there, trapped. You want to give it a pull so it doesn't show through, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and finish with my red stitch in this section. So you can see my stitch markers that I have. I give it a gentle tug, move the stitch marker over, and continue.